Today it's my honor to have our presenter, Keith Hansen. I'd like to tell you a little bit about Keith. We got acquainted a little bit, and many of you know him. He spent about 30 years in the horticultural field, along from in many different aspects, from retail to research, and then started with extension service in Corpus Christi, and then moved up here to our area. But he has so much knowledge of all different areas in the ecoregions of Texas, and California. So that brings in the Mediterranean climate too. So Keith is retired now from the horticultural agent from AgriLife. He continues to have his blog, which is EastTexasGardening.com. He is a frequent contributor to Texas Gardener magazine and does consulting also. So without further delay, I give you Keith Hansen.
Yeah, thank you, Gail. So, actually, I've been kind of doing this kind of gig for 50 years. So, my dad was a gardener, and when I was growing up, I didn't care. I was a kid. We were in Ohio. I was born in Ohio, and we were going down the garden path back towards the vegetable garden. I used to play underneath the rhubarb. Kind of make it a little better. Anyway, he says, "What's that?" And I go, "I don't know." He says, "I just told you." So, and his dad was a gardener, and actually, there's this write-up on him. He was an attorney in Cleveland, and he's in the book about, I guess, notable people in Cleveland, and it says that he grew in his yard one of every native plant to that area of Ohio. My dad told me once, he said, "Well, that's a huge exaggeration," but he was a very good gardener. So, at any rate, but I started with extension back in 1986, so that's where the 8 years came from. So, here. All right. So, enough about me. So what I wanted to do was give you just a big list of plants, and you have a handout, so I won't have to spend a whole lot of time talking about each one, because if I do, we won't get through until maybe 1:30 or 2. So, anyway, so I'm going to kind of fly through here. I would like to say that, a lot of these, quite possibly, are not available locally. They're all in commerce somewhere. You can get this somewhere, online or whatever. You may need to ask, somebody at an independent garden center to see if they can, order it for you. Really good ones might be willing to do that, or mail order, right? That's a thing right now. And some of these just might be for some more experienced gardeners, or if you've just got the right kind of conditions in your particular yard. So we'll just dive right in. And we're going to start with small trees because large trees get so big and they just dominate everything. And once you have a couple of them, you don't need any more. And so small trees are ideal for even medium-sized, large yards, or even small yards. And so this first one is a redbud. It's a Chinese redbud. And the image you see on the right there, that's Avondale. And we had that in the Idea Garden for probably 10 or 15 years, maybe. And every year, this would look like this in February. And you can see that from the other side of the road. The Idea Garden is in the Tyler Rose Garden. I mean, it would just stand out like, not like a sore thumb, but just like, whoa, glory, you know, it's just beautiful. But, you know, I loved it. The master gardeners loved it when it was in bloom, but they didn't love it when it was not. Because every single one of those blooms set, you know, they set fruit, and it's a seed pod. So, no, that's ugly, you know. And so, well, think of it just as another, you know, beauty, you know. I mean, but anyway, I lost that argument. But I mean, it literally blooms on every inch of the deep down on the trunk or all the way to the base. It's just an amazing tree. So that's Avondale, and of course it was found or developed in Australia. The one on the one on the left here, this is Don Egoff, and that was named for Don Egoff, who was the breeder at the National Arboretum in Washington D.C. And supposedly this one was sterile, that would not set seed, and I think it did. And actually, this is a picture of it in the IKEA garden. Also, kind of replaced that one. Can you see? Yeah. And so, at any rate, I may sit down a little bit or lean, but it's gone too. I'm not sure why. At any rate, things come and go. But you know, red buds are just wonderful, wonderful small trees for us. And one thing I wanted to point out is, you know, red buds are native, you know, all the way from almost to Canada, you know, all the way down into Mexico, you know, from the East Coast all the way to the West Coast. There's actually West Coast species, and so there's a thing called provenance, and provenance means where did the genetics come from for that particular plant. So breeders, you know, are breeding these dogwoods and a lot of other plants, and so the provenance for some things may come from up north that may not thrive or do really well down here in the south. So it's good to know where the origins were for any kind of particular, especially like a hybrid. That's hard. That's a kind of hard information to figure out. So the way you actually learn is from master gardeners and other folks. You know, it says, "Will this grow here? You know, do we have a lot of experience?" So anyway, this is a weeping red bud right here, and you can see it in its fall foliage and in the springtime. And so it's a small tree. It weeps heavily, and actually, you know, it'll keep weeping and hit the ground and start going horizontally on the soil. That's why it's called traveling. But it's a great little plant and very tough. So this next one is one of the, so there's a lot of new red buds coming out. This one's called Rising Sun. And so you can see the new growth. It's a really pretty kind of a burnished yellowish orange. And it's not bad. It's not a bad tree. Take a look at this one. That photograph is in focus. It looks like it's not in focus. But if you look at the house, it's in focus. And this is called Hearts of Gold. And this tree is on, many of you may have seen it, it's on College Street.
This goes away here.
Yeah. Isn't it it's just amazing. Does it look like that, Ted?
Yeah, it looks just like that. Amazing.
I mean, it's an amazing tree. So, I mean, if you want something to just go, wow, you know, stop grabbing. Yeah. So that's Hearts of Gold. This is an older one right here, and it's called Alley Cat. This is actually in my yard. That's a tree that's maybe 3 years old. And this shows you the close-up of the foliage. It's very big. And so it's a really nice tree. It has a nice bloom in the springtime. I first saw this up in Pittsburgh, but it does perfectly well down here. So the one that's currently taking, you know, the gardening world by storm is called flamethrower. And this thing is just, you know, gorgeous. But you know, some of the original purple leaf ones was like, I can't remember the name of it now. Well, it was before Merlot. But yeah, that's one. Yeah, forest pansy. And the thing about forest pansy is that it didn't hold its color very well. I mean, it looked really beautiful in the springtime, and then it would fade to a dark green, which is okay. But this thing will hold its color. And so this is one that is outstanding in the landscape. So this gives you an idea of what I was talking about provenance. This tree right here, this is a photograph off the internet. And this is Carolina Sweetheart. And it was bred in North Carolina. There's a breeding program up at the foothills, a very good breeding program. And some of the other pictures I'll show you come out of that program. And when we saw this, we go, oh my gosh, it looks like the tree's in bloom, but it's just the variegated foliage. It's really pretty. So I got a hold of one. Actually, Pastor Gardner, a friend of mine, who I was helping, she actually brought one back. She knew I was really interested in it. She went to North Carolina, because the first year it was introduced, they were not introducing it nationally. Only North Carolinians could buy it. So anyway, but after the first year, so she got one, brought it back, and so this down here, as you can see in the corner, is the tree in my yard, and it doesn't look anything like that. And it's still there. It's still a nice tree. It still has nice, darker foliage. My wife likes it, so we're keeping it. And it's not every place that's in the way. Here's a native tree. It's called two-winged silverbell. It's on Glacia. This particular tree is in the right here. Martha, is this still there? I hope so.
It is.
Oh, good. Master gardeners keep thinking, oh, we need to get rid of that. Try something else. And no, this is a great tree. And, so this is obviously it's a springtime bloom. It just finished blooming. I have a smaller tree in my yard. It's just finished blooming. But look at the fall foliage right there. And then check out a close-up of the blooms. And actually, this is the tree at Stephen F. Austin in its fall foliage. It's very, very pretty. It's a great native tree, to the south. When I say native, a lot of times this is going to be like from East Texas all the way to the East Coast, and it may be going on up the East Coast a little bit. So once we get past, once we get past Tyler going west, everything starts changing, right? The rainfall drops off, the soils get worse, seeds start growing, And so we're really in the crossroads. We're in an ideal place to grow so many different kinds of plants. This is a native to right around in our area. This is Grancy Graybeard or Greenwich tree. Thank you. Keonanthus virginicus. And I think this is actually a Texas superstar. Got a little logo down there. Oh no, that means it's native. I did this part of this talk for another group a couple years ago. It's just fabulous when it's in bloom. So the interesting thing about French tree is that there's male and female. They're separate, called dioecious. And it's the male that's the most floriferous, the most showy when it's in bloom. But both of them are showy when they're in bloom. The female, of course, can set fruit. So that's the native one. This one is from the Asia, and is Keonanthus obtusus, the Chinese French tree. And so it tends to be a little bit more dramatic in its display. And this is a line of them on Wilson Drive at just outside of the Arboretum there at Stephen F. Austin. Very, very beautiful tree. Needs good drained soil. So if it's in a wet area, they can start having problems. So this is also, I want to throw in another Chinese French tree that's called Tokyo Tower. And I think I mentioned it on the list, but I don't want you to go out and buy it. So it's really cool. When it was first introduced, we thought this is going to be great because it has a fascicate growth habit. Fascicate means it's growing upright like this. You can see how these things kind of want to grow out, and kind of, in a big ball. But this one literally, it's not like a rocket booster, but which is nice. And we were so taken with it. There was a nursery, a wholesale nursery grower down north of Houston that brought in a couple hundred grafted whips to grow and sell. What we found out was that we don't have enough chilling to make it bloom properly. So the tree grows just fine. It'll throw out a bloom here and there, but it's just wimpy. You know, and chilling hours means a certain number of hours below 45 and above 32, kind of like peach trees, you know, and other fruit trees need. And the reason is that the Chinese redbud, you can find it from northern China, Japan, all up into South Korea, and Tokyo Tower. Guess what? Was from Japan. It was on a little island in northern Japan. Really chilly, you know, the water and all that. So it was getting a lot more chilling than we get here in the south. So that nursery that was growing so many hundreds of them was giving them away, because they couldn't sell them. Couldn't sell them. I have one, and I'm not going to get rid of it. I like the shape, and then when we have a cold winter, it blooms well, and when it doesn't. This is one of my most favorite trees. Small trees. This is the evergreen dogwood, Cornus angustiata. This was another one that comes from the Orient. And it kind of looks like a Coosa dogwood, which is real common in the northeastern part of the United States. This started blooming about June 1, or toward the end of May, and it'll look just like that for 6 weeks. Our native dogwood is beautiful. Of course, it's finished blooming right now, and it has a nice show for about a week and a half, maybe a little bit longer if it's cool. But the blooms are real waxy and just hold up so well. And there's one commercial one called Empress of China, I think, and that's a very, very good one, very floriferous. So it's a plum. This is actually a seedling, and there you can see what the fruit looks like. It's very different from our native dogwood. This is another one. I got two from Margie Jenkins down in Louisiana. She was the first one that introduced me to this tree. And so I had planted this one in my backyard, and about a year later, I decided to give it to the idea garden. And so it was in the middle of the idea garden for a long time. And it was a very nice tree there, but it didn't look like, it was just kind of growing around it. It had a rough one. I mean, when I dug it up to get to the magic gardens, I literally barefooted. I mean, there was no soil on it. But it survived and did really well. And, the ID garden's a demonstration garden, so it's meant to demonstrate different stuff. So things come and go. Sometimes over 5 Okay, another oriental tree. This is the Japanese cedar, and like in Taiwan and in China, this is actually a timber tree. It's really, really big. This particular image is from the Dallas Arboretum, and I was really surprised to see it there doing so well. I had it in my yard for probably 10 years. Actually, the Master Gardeners found one and planted it in the Tyler Rose Garden and kind of dedicated it to my dad. And it's still there. It's doing well. It's to the west of the Idea Gardens. So you can see it. All evergreen conifer. And then this is a dwarf one. It's called Globosum. And I've had this one for 30 years. You notice past tense? I mean, I love this. I love both of them. They're just such fine. The needles are soft. I mean, so Winter Storm Uri, then the drought, and then 45 days over 100 degrees, and then another early hard freeze, no conditioning. So that's what took out my Yoshino, which was the tall one in my yard. And then, believe it or not, bagworms got this. And by the time I found it, it's right by my driveway. And I noticed that something was off, and I was like, what's wrong? And so I looked closely, and here's a tiny little bagworm. I go, oh man. So I picked it off, and I started looking. I ended up with a bucket this thick with bagworms. And apparently they had done enough damage to kill it. So that's too bad. And I don't think, all the other environmental things help. But I would not say don't buy it because of that. I mean, both of these trees are good and worth having. And especially seeing that the one in the rose garden is still doing well. Okay. Yopon holly, that's a very common, native tree. This one's called Virginia Dare, named after a lady on the East Coast, or by someone who discovered this in her yard. And so instead of having red berries, it has orange berries. And this is, or was, in the idea garden. Is it still there? I know it was having some problems.
No. It didn't survive the winter. One of the winter.
Anyway, we got this one from Dave Creek at SFA. We've had it for probably 20 years in the idea garden. Always a spectacular display. So, but in general, Yopon hollies, not the little dwarf ones, but the tree form. It's a good, small leaves, small tree, evergreen, and they're just good trees, fall trees. Okay, there's a story behind this one. This is called sweet tea, and you can see the X in front of the botanical name called Gordelinia grandiflora. And it's called Gordelinia because it's a hybrid between a Gordonia, which is a tall shrub that's native to the South, especially like Louisiana and Alabama and Georgia. It has these big, silky looking flowers. It does really, really well. Actually, the Gordonia is called the fried egg shrub because the blooms look just like that. And when the blooms fall off, they fall down, go. And so it looks like fried eggs all over the soil. It's really a neat shrub, and I've had that. But Gordonia was crossed by this guy in North Carolina with Franklinia. Franklinia alamata. And Franklinia is extinct in the wild. And it was discovered by a guy back in the late 1700s, 1791 or somewhere around in there. Franklinia, he named it, of course, after his buddy, Ben Franklin. And he went back, found it again, collected seeds, took it back, and they planted them, and they grew them, and they went back a couple of years later, or twice later, and could never find it again. And it's gone. It's gone from its native, where they originally found it, something like that. At any rate, and Franklinia basically is a small tree that's looking for a place to die. It just is so temperamental, and I think it gets root rot really easily. But this sweet tea actually combines the best of both worlds, and so it's really a neat plant. So that's one of the ones that you might have a hard time finding, and you need the good conditions to grow it in. Okay, so we're going to transition from small trees to shrubs, and here's one that maybe most of you are familiar with, the beautyberry. And it's good, wonderful deciduous shrub, heavy, berry crop every year. The birds love it, and they love it so much that you probably have it coming up in your shrub beds, flower beds, and stuff. But if you have one where you can just let it grow, it can get, maybe 6 feet tall and then just cascade over. And just let it grow. Don't try to prune it. I mean, it blooms on new growth, so you can prune it back, and it'll fruit every year. But so you can treat it either way. Right? You can keep it in check and prune it back hard, or just let it, fulfill its genetic potential, you might say. So there are a few calicarpus from beauty berries from far east, and I really like them a lot, but they just don't seem to hold up here as well. I just wanted to show them to you. This one's called Duet. This is a close-up of Duet, so it has beautiful variegated foliage. And actually, Duet was released by the USDA several years ago. This one is a more recent introduction. It's called Wine Spritzer. And you can see it's got a different kind of variegation. It has reddish stems, little tiny purple fruits, and Wine Spritzer is trademarked, and this Shiki or Shiki is actually the cultivar name. So either one is the same plant. They just don't seem to hold up as well. For me in my garden. So I don't know how to do it here. So here's a shrub that nobody knew ever existed a few years ago, and suddenly it's everywhere. It's taken the garden world, kind of like Laura Penwin did in the 90s. And it's called Distilleum. It's like, what are we going to call this, And I haven't actually heard it called a common name besides its botanical name, Distilleum. And it's been bred quite a bit. You can see a lot of different ones on the market. This one's called Vintage J. It's a lower growing one, and so it's better for a smaller piece of property. These are evergreen, by the way. This one's called Emerald Heights. You can see it's a trademark one. This is Blue Cascade. It has a bluish cast. You can't quite tell by this photograph. This is actually in my garden. I cut it back a little bit, not much, every year, but it's more of a horizontal growth. So if you have an area where you want an evergreen, you want something that's kind of low growing, and can get about 2.5, 3 feet tall, it's really a good plant. It's a hardy plant, and these are becoming very readily available in the nursery trade. So I keep mentioning this guy in North Carolina. His name's Tom Rainey, and he's a breeder with North Carolina State University up in the Mountain States Research Center. And he bred a series of these flowering quints, and he called them double takes. It's a double take series. And so you can see the scarlet one, the orange one, which it's really more orange than that, and then the pink one, which is, I guess it's pink. To me, my favorite one is Scarlet Storm, but its growth habit is kind of wide and rangy a little bit. So after it finishes blooming, if you want to kind of push it up more, just prune it back because they do bloom on previous season's growth. So if you're going to prune back any kind of quince, you prune them right after they finish blooming, and then as they grow, you can kind of keep tipping it back, and at some point you got to stop because they have to set flower buds during the summertime, so they will bloom early in the springtime. These are some of the first plants to bloom. Flowering quince are wonderful. So, but they're all double, so they have a lot of firepower. When people see this, they just go, "Wow!" I mean, it just like stands out really nice. The orange storm is I think a bit more compact centrally and has a nice growth habit. And pink storm blooms later than these two. And the best example I ever saw of pink storm was at the Dallas Arboretum. I have all three of my landscape. So here's Father Gilla, and this is a Mount Gary. It's a cultivar, and it does pretty well for us here in Tyler. You would kind kind of grow it where you would grow an azalea. It needs well-drained soil. It needs some sun to color up, and I'll show you that in a second. But it has these feather duster-like blooms in the springtime, so it's really quite pretty. And this is just another example. This is one that I have in my yard. But this is what it can do in the fall if it gets enough sun. And this picture was taken in the Heritage Rose Garden, in the Tyler Rose Garden. And the soil there where this is planted and a lot of that stuff on the bed that's on the far west side actually came from long time ago. The city of Tyler had a volleyball tournament, or I think it was a volleyball tournament. So they brought in all this sand, right? And so that bed is mostly sand, very sharp drainage, right? Behind it, there's the Muskogee grapevine, fabulous grapevine. But at any rate, this gets morning sun and then afternoon shade. They've got an irrigation system, so it really shows potential. So this is kind of native in the foothills of the Appalachian, coming down a little bit, coming west a little bit. Not native to Texas, I don't think. Okay, so this is red yucca, and we call it a native yucca, but actually I don't think it's ever been found, or maybe it was found in Texas. It was in a really small little location and kind of gone, but it's native to Mexico. And of course it does very well with us. And this is a cultivar. And actually you can see it's a registered mark called bright lights. And it's just bright red, and you see the difference between kind of the more common color. It's more of a pinkish red versus bright red. So that's where it got its name, bright lights. The plant seems to be less vigorous, and as it grows as tall as the ones that you'll commonly find, that are unnamed, don't have a brand name on them or a cultivar name. And I did. Isn't that nice? That's just a really nice use of it. You got looks like maybe salvia in the background. There's a nice planting of this at Cumberland Mall at the entranceway on the north side. So to me, it's a little bit weaker growing, but maybe you just compensate that by planting closer together. And again, being a red yucca, it needs very good drainage, full sun, just like you would think of a regular yucca. Okay, here's a plant that is really wonderful. If you've ever lived up north, the English yew is very popular as a kind of standard evergreen. We don't have something like that, or we didn't have something like that here in the South. But this is the Japanese yew, and this particular one is called Prostrata, and that's because it just grows horizontal direction. And so it's called spreading Japanese yew. Close to the bulb, it's soft. It's really nice. This will grow in 100% shade, not dark shade necessarily, but in full shade. And it'll also take some sun. And there are a lot of cultivars out there. I have another one called Duke, which was developed in Duke Gardens in North Carolina. And there's several others. So any of the Japanese yews, the Cephalotaxis, and the names in your handout, are great. And actually, at the SFA Arboretum, in the Mask Arboretum section, there's a whole collection of yews. They're all different sizes and growth habits. And actually, there's some in the Ruby Mice garden also. And actually, Dave Creek sold some of those. One of them was a female, so they have separate male and female plants. Flowers are separate. And one day we saw all these seedlings underneath them. I said, "Dang, look at that." And so they started potting them up and they sold them plant sale this last spring. That's a good plant sale to go pick up some of the stuff. It's every April and October. Okay. You know, Abelias are very common and old-fashioned plants, but there's some newer varieties. This one's been out for a while. The original name was, or the cultivar name is Hope Leaf, and you can propagate it and sell it as Hope Leaf. But here you see Twist of Lime, one of the nurseries decided to trademark it, so you can't propagate. Well, you can propagate it, but you can't sell it as Twist of Lime. But anyway, beautiful, beautiful variegation. It's more of a compact plant. You know, the old-fashioned Abelia can get pretty big, and doesn't have that kind of a variegated foliage. And then there's another one, I don't have a photograph of it, it's called Kaleidoscope, and that's a really great one too. And it has kind of a, I don't know, fall, it has variegated foliage, and the yellow is a little darker yellow, but in the fall it turns burgundy colors, and just a mix of colors. It's just really a nice plant. You have one in the idea here, so go see it. Okay, so I think it's in the current version of the Texas Gardener magazine I wrote about sweet spire. I can't remember which issue they're in, but anyway, this is an excellent plant for us here in Tyler in the south. It's blooming right now. There's a lot of different cultivars. One thing to know about sweet spire is that they'll sucker. It's not, you know, it's not rampant. It's not something that, you know, oh no, Keith's going to introduce something that's going to take over my yard. I've done that in the past, but not with this plant. And it has just, you know, the spring flowers are these long, catkin-like flowers, pure white. But the fall color is just equally as beautiful. And this one's called Henry's Garden. And there's another one called Little Henry. Actually, this is Little Henry. And you can see there's a little bit of difference in the fall foliage. This one's actually in the idea garden, kind of on the north end of the garden. And then this is, remember the beautyberry I showed you? Well, this is the same beautyberry. It kind of lost some of its leaves, but it still has all its fruit. So this is, you know, way into the fall. And so this holds its foliage really nicely well into the fall. So it has 2 full seasons of growth. And the more sun they get, the better. I mean, they will grow in shade, but they'll be lanky and not as floriferous. The more sun they get, the better. And, you know, they like moisture. So if you got like a wet spot, this is ideal for it. So it's a great plant. Idea for doing any of the cultivars. Okay, so that was sweet spire, and this is summer sweet. So, so I wrote the article on these 2, you know, sweet shrubs, you know, and they are sweet. So I'm going to show you a couple of cultivars first. The first one is Burgundy Spice, and you can see the foliage stays this color all summer long, and this is in full sun. So, you know, instead of just being a green shrub, it, you know, it has this beautiful burgundy color. And so, I mean, it's so burgundy that the blooms kind of almost, it's kind of hard to see. They, you know, they blend in so much. But look at the fall color. Look at the fall color on it. So again, you get 2 seasons, actually 3 seasons of interest on this. This will also sucker. It's not rampant and it's easily controllable. So if you have an area where you can have just a tiny, you know, a restricted little thicket, I mean, it's great. Or you know, you have a spot that you just want to fill with the same thing. You know, consider Gallicandra as a sweet shrub. Okay, this is Partridge wine. This was bred in North Carolina by somebody else. And so it's a cross between a Chinese one and our native one. And I'll show you the native one next. So this is a very large shrub. It can get about 10 feet tall, about 6 feet wide, and you know, just green leaves, but big blooms, big blooms. And it's just finished. Well, actually, they're blooming right now. All the calicanthus are blooming right now. And then this is just the native calicanthus, the Florida, native sweet shrub. And I have a hard time smelling a lot of flowers. I mean, my wife would say, "Oh, that rose smells so good," and you know, I could just nothing. Are you kidding me? Same, huh? I think I blew out my olfactory senses doing slides with vodka and xylene. I don't know. Something happened. We don't talk about that stuff. At any rate, I can smell this 50 feet away. It is just like, and it smells like fruit. I mean, it smells like, I can't describe it. It smells like it's fruit. It's really sweet, very sweet. And so this will, and actually this particular planting is suckering, and it's in the back of my yard where it gets no extra irrigation. It's, you know, shade all day long. So it's not as full and everything as it could be, but oh, well then this is what it looks like in the fall. So it has, you know, really yellow, butter yellow fall bulb. I better hurry. Okay, well, we're going to see a lot of fast slides coming up here. Okay, so, you know, a lot of people say we can't grow rhododendrons. You know, all azaleas are rhododendrons. Not all rhododendrons are azaleas. You know, they're actually botanically different. You know, of course, rhododendrons tend to have, you know, thick, waxy leaves, big, blousy blooms. But there are a number of these rhododendrons that were selected or bred in more in the south. So there's a Southgate series that Southern Living magazine, where they have Southern Living plants that they've grown in. And I've grown all of these. And, you know, between Winter Storm Uri and, you know, 45 days over 100 degrees and droughts, it all of them except one. I'll show that. You know. But this is called Breezy. That's the Southgate name. So it's got the trademark. That's the Southern Living name, and you can buy these online. And they're worth having. I mean, they're lovely when they're in bloom. That's Breezy. That's Brandy. That's Divine. That's very pretty. Very pretty. We actually have one in the shade garden in the other botanical garden. I think it's and then this is Radiance. And then nice. You can see it blooming at the same time as azaleas, Japanese maple tobacco. And then this one's called Foreign Park. Purple. And I got this, you know, because I was a member of the Garden Writers Association. They, you know, they say, here, you know, the sponsors will send you a plant and say, try this. I go, okay, rhododendron, I'll just stick it back here. I've had that for like 15 or 20 years. And it just gets better and better and better every year. And that's in full shade. It only gets watered when it gets really dry. You can see there's valleys in the background. There's a Japanese maple with kind of power that's over it. Actually, I need to cut back so you can see this one better. But it's just great. Okay, and so then there's the deciduous azaleas. I call them native azaleas. I mean, the rhododendrons are native also, but not to our area. But these azaleas are true rhododendron, they're true azaleas, are native to the southern part of the United States and then going on up the East Coast and up into the Appalachian foothills. And so canescence, actually there's a grove of canescence in Jasper County. And it used to be open to the public, and then it closed. Too many people were going and visiting it. But it blooms pink. you know, common name is the honeysuckle or the Piedmont azalea. Honeysuckle azalea, it just smells so good. And it blooms really early in the springtime, and it's always covered with swallowtail butterflies. And then there's the Australian, which this is you know, a typical color of the Florida azalea, so you take the idea of where it's native to. A lot of them are native to Georgia and Alabama and South Carolina. This is the Oconee, Planium. And so all of these azaleas have been interbred. So now there's a whole wide range of them. And it's almost like you can grow any of these and just be happy. They are deciduous, so they drop their leaves in the wintertime. And they tend to grow upright, you know, so it's more of an open shrub. But very open, so it's not like it blocks anything. So it's something to put like in a mixed border or put behind your grouping of azaleas. And they can get pretty tall. They can get like 8, 9 feet tall. So they can be very, very showy. And if they're happy, then they'll send up shoots from the base of the plant. Not really suckers, but shoots from the base. So then you can get the layered effect of the balloons. So I'm just going to show you. So this is a close-up of the Piedmont or Menneson azalea. And I've had this in my yard since 1993. And it's as happy as it can be. And it's really tall. It's hard to get a good photograph of it. It keeps going higher. But it starts to put out shoots from the base. So the Aromi series took the Florida azalea and some of these others and started breeding them. Aromi was a man in Georgia, I think, and maybe Alabama. And so he came out with this whole series of azaleas. And this one's Sunrise. This is one of the more popular ones. There's also a Confederate series. So there's like Jeff Stewart and Stonewall Jackson and who's the, I don't think of his name, probably up for Admiral Sims. Well, there's Admiral Sims. I'm thinking of the black guy who was African American that was very influential. All right, doesn't matter, but it's a beautiful plant. Okay, so I think, yeah, Frederick Douglass. Thank you. Yeah, that's a very nice one. I have one. So these are just pretty pictures. I think a lot of these were taken at the Byron's Garden. Oh, they've got a lot of them there. But the range of colors is just, you know, just spectacular. This was taken in my yard. I don't even remember what the name of it. And like, who cares? It's so pretty. This one I think is called High Top, and that's a very nice one. There's another Sunrise. This is at the SFA Arboretum. They've got a fabulous collection. So you need to go to the SFA Arboretum at the end of March, beginning of April, and just be blown away with the So Southern Living came out with their own series, and they call them Sunbow. They were actually bred by Levy Leeds in Louisiana. So there's a Solar Flare, there's Solar Ray, there's another solar one, and I mean, they all kind of look like this, different shades, orange and red. And believe it or not, there is a native azalea here in Smith County, and it's this one. It's called the Texas azalea or the swamp azalea. In some literature, we'll call it Longifolium or the coastal. And taxonomists can't agree. But it blooms a lot later than the other ones. This one blooms in May. And I had a master gardener. She was in my first class, second class. Remember Ruby Edwards? Yeah. She came up and said, I have a native azalea in my yard. He said, I want you to come and see. I said, okay, you're a good plant lady. I went to her place, and sure enough, there they were. She had a creek run through the back of her property, and they were growing up on the high bank of the creek. And so Gary McDonald, which was Fred Pemberton's research assistant, and I went back. We took cuttings, and we dug up some suckers, because it just suckered just a little bit. And the cuttings didn't live. It's really hard to propagate deciduous growth cuttings. Evergreen azaleas from cuttings is easy, but deciduous it's hard. Anyway, Gary got a couple of them to live. We put them in the greenhouse at Overton, and I got one. So it's a treasure. It's a rubies azalea. Not real showy, but anyway, it's interesting. Okay, so this is a Vaccinium. You know, blueberries are Vaccinium, and this is a little native one. It's called Rose's Blush, and it has tiny little leaf that the new growth has this rose blush on it, and there's the fruit right there, tiny little fruit. So it's great for wildlife. You know, birds love this, and it'll sucker. It just kind of gently sucker. And so wherever you can grow blueberries, you can grow this. This is another picture of it in bloom. And then here's a picture of it in bloom. So it's Vaccinium darwii. This is one that doesn't. It's a different. This is what the native one looks like. And so this was selected for its coloration. So actually, this one had this native creature also for native blue. So you know our regular blueberry, you know that we eat, is a fabulous landscape plant. You know, and there's kind of a trend called foodscaping, you know, so you can intermix, you know, your food plants with your regular shrubs and flowers. And this is a perfect plant for that because it's mostly evergreen. You know, blooms in the springtime, attracts bumblebees, pollinators, right? Has fabulous fall color. And then, of course, you get to eat the fruit, right? And they'll sucker a little bit, which is okay because you want more fruit, right? And you plant 2 or 3, you plant different varieties so they can cross pollinate. You can't just plant one variety. You need to get 2 different varieties at least. And there's literature out there that kind of show you what the best pollinators, best varieties are to get the best cross pollination. Because they need to be bloom at the same time of year. Take the same time of spring, right? So look at that. I mean, I love it just as much for the fruit, you know, as for the fall color. And then here's another southern shrub. It's a viburnum, and this one you can almost substitute dwarf yopon holly with this one, but it blooms like this. And this particular one is called Mrs. Schiller's Delight. So it's viburnum abomatum, and called dwarf Walter's viburnum, common name. And if you don't get Mrs. Schiller's Delight, she's going to get about maybe 4 or 5 feet tall. Mrs. Schiller's Delight stays about 3 feet tall. They bloom the same, and they will sucker. Cool. Yeah, and they will sucker. But you know, it's nice if you got an area where you want to kind of fill in with a low-growing evergreen shrub that blooms in the springtime. It's becoming very, very popular. Apparently, because Master Gardeners got an idea. Well, keeping with the food theme, this is not really a landscape plant, but this is satsumas. Satsumas are the hardiest of the citrus of the sweet citrus that we can grow. That's edible. Okay, you know, sour orange, big grow sour orange, real thorny. You know, it's a nice barrier plant. But at any rate, so this is Miho, Zito, and then it did some breeding to try to increase the hardiness of it. So orange frost, orange frost. If you're going to plant them in the ground, you need to protect them for the first several years to get a really big established root system. And even then, you know, a windstorm period won't end. But you know, they bloom in the springtime. You know, for the fragrance. They're the larval host for the giant swallowtail butterfly. Sometimes you see the caterpillars with big eyeballs, that's the time swallowtail larvae. But wouldn't you like in October or November just to go in your yard and harvest that? I have two, you know, and I kept them in pots forever, and one I finally decided to plant in the ground. I got tired of hauling them into the garage, and I probably had 50 trees on it. We were eating them for a long time. Sable liner, you know, you keep palms. I think it's tropical, but of course, you know, dwarf palmetto, you know, is native to the piney woods, and there's a lot of installations and banks, and I've seen them at storage units here. I mean, I'm so happy to see people starting to use these in landscaping. The bank at the corner of Old True Highway and Beckham has them around the outside of the bank. That's really cool. You know, so they take shade, you know, stay low. Of course, the fronds get quite long, but evergreen, something to think about. You got swampy areas, wet areas, but it doesn't have to be wet. It doesn't have to be. Okay, really quickly. We're going to go through some perennials. Of course, butterfly weed, you know, we all know about the monarch, and so we all need to be finding butterfly weed. There's several different Sleepiest species. Stick with the ones that are native to our area, because there's a lot of them that are native to all across, you know, the south, West Texas, Mexico, and everywhere. I mean, you can see there's a long list here. And good for the butterflies, right? Because it's a larval host for the monarch butterfly. And then a lot of other butterflies will nectar on the flower. This is Arkansas blue star called Hansonia. It has these attractive little blue clusters of blue flowers in the springtime, really fine textured foliage, but it's the fall foliage of the Brechii that's so attractive. Very, very pretty. There's another one called String Theory that just came out that's a little bit more compact. And actually, I saw it in Plants in Texas. And they were carrying String Theory. So I bought so here's another Hansonia, and this is one of the best. And this is called Storm Cloud. So you can see the foliage is different. You know, the flowers are a little bit more showy. It blooms in early spring, you know, in March. But look at the new growth. It's really cool. You know, it has these dark blue, dark purple stems. You know, when the flowers begin to come up. This is a fabulous selection of this particular blue star. All the salvias are good. There's not a bad salvia, I don't think. You know, this is the Farinaceae blue sage. One of the best ones is the one that Greg introduced called Henry Goldberg. There's several others. This is Amistad, which is a cross. It just has beautiful purple flowers. Hummingbird, all the salvias are called hummingbirds, called bees, bumblebees. When this one first came out, people thought it would be hardy. It's perfectly hardy. And it gets about this tall. So it's a very vigorous plant. And it's covered with these beautiful purple flowers. Another purple flower, of course, is the purple coneflower. A great native. There's several different species of echinacea. And this is one that I'm particularly fond of. Here is the Melita, which well, the combinations escape me, but this particular one is a new introduction, and it's a cross of Melita with another species of echinacea, and it's called Pretty Parasol. Isn't that nice? Petals are hanging down. It has hybrid vigor, which is good. When you a lot of times when you have hybrids, they're more vigorous than straight species, and that's the case with this particular one. So I'm going to add that to my garden. Firebush has been a popular plant for a long time. We're kind of marginal on it up here. It dies in the ground. A lot of times it doesn't come back until like late May, around then suddenly it starts coming back, right? And this is a newer introduction. It's called lime sizzler. So instead of having dark green leaves, it has variegated leaves. Of course, both of them have the tubular red flowers that hummingbirds love. This is Indian cane. Another wonderful, wonderful native. It's blooming right now. You just can't go wrong with this. You know, you're thinking about introducing it. You know, get like 5 of them. You know, have just a nice grouping of them, and then they'll reseed and give you more. It's not a weed pest. Okay, hellebores. We're going to go through this really fast. For full shade, for kind of a pseudo evergreen that blooms in Christmas time or January or even into February, full shade. Hellebores are great, and we do really wonderful with hellebores. Some of them are sterile that won't reseed. The ones that aren't sterile will reseed. This is the foliage of some receding ones. It's actually the shade garden, vantage garden was, and it's just a nice plant, even when it's not in bloom. But when it's in bloom, they're gorgeous. This is a popular one called Snow, Ivory Prince. It's an early bloom, so that actually turns pure white after it fully opens up. All the rest of these that you're going to see are photos are courtesy of Plant License Nursery, mail order nursery in North Carolina. This is Pink Frost, Rio Carnival. Just to give you an idea of the diversity of it. And the breeding now is to try to get the colors, get the picotees, but also to get them more facing up instead of hanging down. So you just can't go wrong. They just need good rain. That's all. Don't put them in a wet area. Hostas, we can grow hostas. The hostas are native from North Korea all the way down to South China. So the ones that do best have genetics that come from the lower latitudes in that range. But here's just a few. There's a long list of them on the internet. Look for hostas for warm areas. Again, a great shade plant. Guacamole. This is my favorite, and it's pretty popular and readily available. So sweet. And then this is Royal Standard. It's been out a really long time. This big, bold, dark green leaves. And then here's one that has Royal Standard right next to it, sugar and cream. So you can see the similarity, and you can see that they have these white blooms. They bloom in late summer. Well, like late July and August. And so that just tells you that they've got that southern China genetics. So they're more adapted to our climate. Here you can see them in the shade garden along with Farfugium, which is our next one. This is Gigantea, commonly called tractor seat plant, because the leaves get about this big and they look like a John Deere tractor seat. And in the fall, they bloom like this. So so you have late fall pollinators hitting on them, little butterflies and stuff. Mostly evergreen. They do need shade to do best. An article or two ago, I wrote about variegated Solomon seal. It's a wonderful plant. It suckers. It's in shade. It has variegated foliage. It has little bells, white bells in the springtime. So really quickly, we'll go through the fern. This is autumn fern. Here's a stiff leaf, evergreen, flushing fern. Here's a huge rose. So it's a very nice fern. Most of these ferns need to be cut back in the springtime before the frosts start coming out. Just, even though they're evergreen, they start looking kind of tattery, especially if they go through a hard winter. So this one I really like. Champion wood fern. It reminds me of leatherleaf fern that the forest used. It has the same kind of consistency. I once had dreams of growing it and selling it to the florist. So that's but this is Japanese painted fern. This one slowly spreads, and it's deciduous. So this is evergreen, this is deciduous, and this one is more sensitive to drying out. But these evergreen, like the autumn fern and this one, they're tougher. They take drying out a little bit more in the summertime. Tassel fern, native air fern, of course, this is native, Central Texas, all the way through here. A wonderful plant. I really like that. Okay, we're going to end up with ornamental grasses. Everybody's seen the pink muley grass, wonderful grass. Unibergia capillaris, and actually they discovered that that's the wrong species. It's actually Sarica, but that'll take forever to change the literature. But it's just beautiful when it comes into bloom in the late summer and early fall. I like this one almost as much or more. This is the same species, but it's called white cloud, and it gets about twice as big, and pure white blooms. And so, if you're trying to have a meadow-like, one the ornamental grasses, some of the taller ones, these are great plants to have. And here's another one, another Muhlenbergia. This one is actually a Texas superstar. This is in the this is in part of the section called Lindheimer's Muhlenbergia Lindheimer. Here it is in my yard. I've got about 10 of them. So I'm trying to kind of have a meadow-like appearance. You can see it's blooming there with the fall blooming salvia right there. And I wanted to end with the carrots. Carrots is a sedge. So you know the saying is sedges have edges, grasses are round and have nose to the ground. Sedges are a worldwide plant. I mean, there's like thousands of different species of carrots, and a lot of them make really great landscape plants. And so this is carrot texensis that was part of a planting here somewhere in the Northeast. There's a nursery in North Carolina that mainly just grows grasses and sedges, carrots. And this is one of their planting herbs. But you get the idea. Texensis in Texas, I have carrots texensis growing in my yard. I didn't know what species it was. I sent it off to an art herbarium to get this guy who's expert at identifying these carrots. He identified it as texensis. So we know it grows really well here. I've seen it. I've done some consulting, and people are wanting to get rid of all this stuff. I said, no. You've got this great ground cover right here. It's like, it's shade, it's adapted. No one has ever watered it. Just God from the heavens. I mean, it's a great plant. For shade or part sun. Here's one that I think has been really good. It gets about 2 feet tall. It has carrot Kansas. I don't think it comes from Cherokee County, Southwest. But here's the blooms on it. So it's quite attractive when it's in bloom. When it's out of bloom, it does this nice, medium-sized grassy appearance. But it's a sedge. They're evergreen. They're cool season. All the carrots are cool season plants. So their main growth time is in the fall and in spring, and then they just kind of shut down. They don't die or anything. They don't go around. They shut down in the summertime, and they bloom in the springtime. So if you're going to plant them, right now, I have to say it's too late, but you get your best growth on it if you're planting in the fall or in the spring. This is another one that I like even better than texensis, and I had this one identified from my yard. It's called Carrots Leavenworthia. I guess it's the Leavenworth carrots. I don't know. I haven't seen a common name for it, and I don't know anybody that's actually growing it, but it's highly, and you can see the difference. The seed heads are a little different. They're clustered there at the end. but it makes a nice, it's like a mop head. It's just really nice. So I leave them wherever they are. I encourage the seeds to fall off and grow some more. This one's growing in full sun, sandy soil, well-drained sandy soil. So you don't have to have garbage there. So then there's a bunch of them that are native to the Orient, and all of these have variegated bullets. I'm sorry I'm going so long, but I'm almost done. So this one's called Everest. There's a real popular one called Falling Waters that gets even bigger. It has bright white edges. You can get it at the box stores. And it gets about maybe 1.5 foot, 2 feet tall, and almost 2 feet wide. It's a very big, lousy one. And then this is another popular one from Evergrilla. You can see it's just chartreuse all the way through. So you need to have something dark green behind it. It really pops. And this is sparkler. This one tends to revert to green, so if you get any green ones coming up, it has this kind of spiral leaf arrangement along the stem. But this carrot cochimensis were selected in Ireland and become very popular everywhere. And we've done a carrot trial, a real small carrot trial in the shade garden, in the Tyler Botanic Garden, and I've grown several of them, and they all struggle. I mean, I'll lose maybe half of them, and then the ones that then they come back. Some of the ones that survive, and so I'm not as happy about these. Are we talked about this? These are great for like short term, like a potted plant, on your porch or something like that. If you want something permanent, stick with the native ones, native to the United States. And there's a whole bunch of those that are native. Okay, so this is my website. East Texas Gardening. I have articles that I write that are actually that Texas Gardener has on their website. I link to that. Not all the articles are available. I went to my website this morning and it was down. And I started freaking out. I go, what is going on? I started, it's not my internet, it's not anything else. I mean, half an hour before I left home to get here, I was on the phone with my go-to. Yeah. Fortunately, it's on there. It's not my internet. I don't even have a firewall. So he sold me a firewall. No, not $600. But anyway, I just have some articles or some more information, under educational resources, my blog, which I don't keep up with. Educational resources of what the Texas Gardener articles are. And I do write for the Texas Gardener every issue, except I have to be excused for one issue. I wrote one on tea because I'm growing tea and I'm making tea. And you can too. Tea it's a camellia. It's a particular camellia. It's Camellia sinensis. And it grows just like any other camellia. And you just harvest the leaves. Once the bush is grown really well, you can get 3 harvests off of it. You can get the first flush, and then it will regrow. In the springtime, you get a second flush in really early summer. And then you often can get it in the fall.
Keith, I can't find that anywhere. I've been with Alice and everywhere.
You probably just have to order it online. They have had it at Arbor Gate down in the Houston area.
Yeah, and they have it at Covington's and all. And so I went back last year and Plants in Texas says something, the breeze got, they have trouble.
Well, I think they just sell out really fast. This is kind of an up and coming. Their tea production, tea plantations are an up and coming thing in the South. There's a couple in Louisiana, there's a few in Mississippi. The original Lipton had a tea plantation in South Carolina on one of the berry grounds. Charleston. Yeah. And so anyway, So anyway, I have articles in the Texas Garden magazine, and these are some of the links that you can go to. So I have a Facebook page, Instagram page, where you can go to free pictures. Okay, I'm sorry I went so long. Thank you for hanging with me.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, I have to go back.
Thank you, Keith. That was fantastic. I got so much good information. I hope you did too. Such a wealth of knowledge. Boy, I just want to go out and buy more. I didn't even play with what I got.